he's saying they're screwed over. That's like the saddest part of it. It's people that were really passionate about doing something and then they can leave.
Yeah, we left in like the 90s, so
yeah,
not so much all the 20s stuff.
One of my ancestors left Russia, had to leave Russia because he had some issues with the Tsar for some reason. So he had to leave and went to another country.
Was his name Rasputin or?
No. This was like before that, yeah.
Your ancestors hanging out with Tsars?
Yeah, Rasputin, the Russian queen. We genuinely don't know what that guy was doing because he he just showed up to my home country one day and he just bought like everything he could. He like had a bunch of money. We don't know what the fuck he was doing in Russia.
Bro, what the fuck?
Yeah, no.
That's called the spy. I'm kidding.
Someone said that Adrian and I need to leave Bernie alone because he's a good man with a big, huge heart. He's an elder that needs not to be made fun of. Thanks. In fact, the team needs Bernie too. I'm like, what drugs is this?
I was just reading that too. That's why I paused. The thing is, there's that famous saying, right? The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yes. Bernie was telling the dinosaurs about universal healthcare.
Oh my fucking god.
I mean, if he'd retire, dude, like 85. Like, it's about time to call it.
Rasputin is like my favorite person from history. No, actually my second favorite person from history.
Michael Bloomberg had the best thing about Bernie is like, hold on a minute, here's a guy, multimillionaire with 3 houses, it's basically the biggest communist on stage. What's going on?
Oh yeah, did you see, what I found the funniest was like how he kept going after millionaires. Millionaires need to pay their fair share, millionaires and billionaires need to pay their fair share. Once he became a millionaire himself, he switched it entirely to billionaires. These billionaires need to pay their fair share. What happened to the millionaires, Bernie?
I don't think these people understand quite how taxation actually works, really. Like, I don't think these people ever actually really think about how taxation works. Really think about it. And that the majority comes from fucking people like that.
The stock portfolio increased by 30%. That means they made $100 million in cash this year. They need to pay the same rate I pay for the increase in their investments.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because if you think about it, right? So Musk, he wants to own 25% of Tesla, which means that for every billion he gets that his vision helped create, that means someone else gets 3 billion. Obviously, not a single person necessarily, but it's not that someone's paying him. He's creating that much worth, that much value. And obviously, you can say, well, how can one person be creating all that value? Well, it's like a bunch of smart people everywhere, except for some reason it's this one person leading a bunch of smart people that constantly wins against NASA, against countries, against companies like car companies. So it must be something, some magic secret sauce, or just insane work ethic that he has. Would be that.
Think about this. Here's a better argument, right? These people have a shit ton of money. They have companies. Someone like Elon has a lot of companies, which means he has created a lot of jobs. Yeah. These people all get paid. These people are more or less middle class to a certain extent. What do? They pay taxes. So the reason for why taxes are even a thing in the first place that can be exploited is because of billionaires like him. because he actually pays pretty damn well.
You know, this actually reminds me, this is like one of the funniest arguments to me, when people are like, when you ask for like successful examples of socialism, and people give you like Sweden and Denmark and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the funniest thing in the world to me, because Sweden and Denmark and Finland and these countries have like less regulations and lower taxation for companies than the US. The taxation in Sweden for companies is lower than that of the US. And
Yeah.
they deal with less regulations. And there is no minimum wage in Sweden.
Also, it's like Tesla at IPO, and after all the like in current value and current, what do you call it? You know, when they do the stock splits and everything. So right now, you bought one share there, you would have had 15 now. So if you bought 1/15 there, then it would have cost you about $1. It's $3.30 now. So if you put in your life savings, your house, your stuff, everything on the line, what Musk did, then an average middle-class family with $500,000 home, you put all that on the line, then right now you'd be worth what, $150 million by doing absolutely nothing, just investing into Tesla. It's kind of like, obviously it's like, well, yeah, that's not the same as Musk, but yeah, if there was an earlier IPO, well, some companies had that. So it's like they not only they'll do huge risk, but then they do a lot of work. But if you don't want to do all the work, you can definitely just you do the huge risk. Why not? IPO, invest everything. If you believe in that person.
It's really crazy though that even Musk's investment in Tesla is not even the best investment in history. The best investment in history is basically this guy that gave Mark Zuckerberg like $20,000 to start Facebook.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I think he's worth like $12 billion or something right now.
The guy who was supposed to own like half of Facebook because of it or something like that?
I think it was like 20% or 25%, something like that. The guy that moved to Singapore.
Yeah, I forgot his name.
Renounced his US citizenship. And then because of the fact that he renounced US citizenship and stopped paying US taxes, they actually made a specific law about him, which was that if you renounce your citizenship, you still need to pay taxes.
That's funny.
Cali wanted to pass a law that if you leave Cali, you still own taxes for the next 10 years, but it would degrade over time.
Yeah. I heard about that. Was that successful?
No, I don't think so. But it was kind of funny.
That would be hard to enforce. Yeah.
Also, you know, it's the funniest thing that most people don't realize. At the country level, there is no socialist countries. It's all capitalist. Every single country is an entity that partakes in a capitalist society. They can't just they got their capital, they got their rules, they got where they can try and burn cash or not, and so forth. But they can't just dictate prices worldwide. Even with like the oil stuff, right? Maybe you can say that oligopoly has some control, but nevertheless, China partakes in a capitalist society.
You look at, say, for instance, China is an example of this exact thing. That's also why I vehemently disagreed with the assessment, oh, if everything else falls in the world, China becomes the next empire. Nah, no. The only reason why China's at all relevant is because there are economies all around the world that are buying things from China because it's super, super cheap to buy things from China. right? And some of the quality
It's not
is actually pretty decent as well. And
At this
look at
point,
they
though,
don't
it's
even
not
have
even
their
about the
own
cheap.
currency isn't even their preferred currency either. It's the fucking United States dollar. You want to buy anything from China, the thing that they will ask you to pay in is the United States dollar.
Yeah.
It's always the
But at
fucking United
this
States
point,
dollar.
at this point, though, the labor in China isn't even that cheap.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm just saying the products are cheaper.
Right.
For what you're getting. I'm not saying like really cheap products from the perspective that they're manufactured like shit. I'm saying I could get very high quality products for much, much less in China than I would do anywhere else in the world. Screws, for example. I bought a bunch of screws, right? I bought a bunch of screws from another country. Compare them together, like say United States, for instance. The screws from China, and if they were actually quite expensive in China, for Chinese prices, that is, if that is your baseline, but it's still cheaper than the US screws, those screws are actually going to be better than the US screws.
I agree.
I'll fucking bet on it right now. Straight on. And they have to be, because I bought these. There's a very specific type of screws that hold together a very specific type of infrastructure that have to have a very particular type of strength, or else the whole thing comes undone. And they haven't failed. Ever.
The Asians are like undefeated in manufacturing.
Oh, and the reason why the metal is so good is you can thank the Germans for that one, because the steel manufacturing plants, they're all from Germany. And when Germany descaled their industry, which is probably one of the stupidest things that they've ever done, aside from, of course, descaling their energy independence to the point where they're energy dependent now, like when they descaled those steel manufacturing plants, the Chinese, they came there to Germany. They numbered every single part out of which that plant was made, took it apart, and reassembled it piece by piece in China. They literally bought the infrastructure and took it with them. And they do this with other things as well. Not like even within their own country, sometimes they have like historical buildings that they don't want in a specific place. So they basically just take it apart piece by piece and build it up somewhere else. It's kind of funny. They're smart about this. That's why they're so powerful, right? They are the shop of the world. They are the shop of the world. All the money goes there because they're the shop of the world.
Also, Otto, to your point about like the Chinese being the best at manufacturing, I would present a counterpoint that I think U.S. in World War II is still the top manufacturing output we've ever seen in this world. From the amount of stuff they manufacture. I mean, the Ford plant was manufacturing a bomber every hour. Obviously, a conveyor belt, but or what do you call it?
Yeah, I'm not talking about the output. I'm talking about like quality with output.
Oh, quality of China is not the top. Well, with mixed with output. Well, I see what you're saying.
No, you can get some very, very high quality products from China for very cheap. I'm not saying all of it is high. I'm not saying all of it is high quality. But typically you can get some of the best high quality things in the world from China, and even if the US ones are more expensive, they usually perform worse nowadays.
Even if you look at parts and components, say plastic, for instance. Actually, no, not even plastic. Actually, some of the electrical components are mostly manufactured by China. So even if you have like an American product, or even so let's say the casting of the plastic, the simple stuff, the easy stuff is done in America, and the hard stuff like manufacturing of electronics or something like that, that is done by China. Like say for instance, you could have you could have something that is plastic or metal in nature that's like some sort of vehicle, perhaps even that would be cast in the U.S. and the batteries, for instance, be made something like China, or like the electrical components that define how exactly the lithium works, because you need a type of controller logic on top of the lithium, because if you don't have that, the lithium will literally explode. You just overcharge it.
Right now, the absolute best batteries in the world are made in China.
Exactly.
They're not being made in the US or Europe or anywhere like that.
So, by the way, when we talk about Chinese electronics manufacturing, which kind of funny enough, that is effectively, well, no longer maybe, but it's effectively Taiwanese manufacturing. And why that?
Yeah, but Taiwan
why that's important? That's
Taiwan
important because
manufactures the advanced semiconductors, not the not the like general ones.
They used to manufacture everything and so forth, and China periodically, mainland China,
Yeah.
kept pulling it over and over. But the reason why that's important is because it was the U.S. too who set up what's called Taiwanese manufacturing and Japanese. Like after World War II, both Japan and Taiwan were massively rebuilt with U.S. kind of efforts and businessmen and so forth, investments. So
Yeah, but the Taiwanese, the TSMC wasn't built using like American taxpayer money or anything like that. It was built by a Taiwanese dude that had worked in the U.S. industry with Texas Instruments and a few other companies. Morris Chang is his name. So he worked at a bunch of U.S. companies, and then he went to Taiwan, and he basically said, "I want to build like a fabrication a company that just works on fabrication and nothing
yeah,
else."
the foundry.
Yeah, and the Taiwanese government was like, if you can get a semiconductor company to invest with us, we'll invest like half the money. And he went and got Philips, and Philips gave them access to some of their technology, and they also gave him access. They also gave TSMC access to ASML, which, by the way, Philips also founded. So Philips ended up founding both TSMC and ASML, the two most important chip companies in the fucking world. And for both of them, they sold it almost immediately. They sold all their shares in the company immediately.
That's crazy. That kind of reminds me of like, what's that? Was it Nortel, the behemoth of various inventions and patents that went under and then picked apart. Kind of same approach for Philips, I guess. But they were founding these companies.
It's also like Xerox selling all their Apple shares, right? Apple gave them a bunch of shares. Apple gave them a bunch of shares to get access to the Xerox park. And then Xerox went around and like sold them almost immediately.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I can only think of like a single example where like the company selling the shares is like has worked out in their favor.
What's the example?
The example is Apple during Steve Jobs' reign, selling all their ARM shares to save their company.
That kind of reminds me of like Interesting. When did this happen?
I think it was after Steve Jobs came back. So basically, Apple was using ARM chips in a few of their products. One of the examples was Newton, but they didn't want basically the technology to be exclusively owned by another company. So they basically made a deal with that company to kind of split off the ARM technology, to which like Apple would own something like 40% of that company, which would be ARM. And then in exchange, Apple would use ARM chips in their products. And as a result, Apple ended up owning like a massive amount of ARM's. ARM ended up going public eventually. ARM eventually ended up going public, and as a result, the shares were doing quite well. And once Steve Jobs came back, he basically offloaded all the ARM shares that Apple had, and slashed all their products, and also got some like a kind of a small amount of money, not a small amount of money for us, but small amount of money from Microsoft, and all of those efforts together managed to barely save Apple.
Yeah, and basically Jobs came in and cut, right? Streamlined everything.
Yeah, exactly. But if it wasn't for even one of those, If it wasn't for even a single one of those, then Apple would have been like bankrupt. So you could make the argument that ARM ended up selling Apple, saving Apple.
That's interesting. It's a good way of putting it. Yeah. It is. It's still. It always kind of interesting to me how the computer was not the product. The company itself was the actual product, and there was just one customer in the world that product was aimed at. That was Apple.
Yeah. Like the next one was next was a ridiculous product. Next computer was a ridiculous product, ridiculous price.
It's like $40,000 in modern terms for students. Yeah. But basically, I don't know if everyone in the audience knows this, but the next computer was this cube. That was not exactly a cube because Steve Jobs is like, okay, well, we got to make it slightly not a cube, then it'll look like a cube. Anyways, so the product was a very expensive computer, next gen operating system and chipset. Something Apple, and they built the software and the hardware. They sold maybe, I don't remember, maybe a couple hundred units, $40,000 equivalent of today's money. But then the real product was the company itself, because Apple didn't have the next version of the OS that they needed for the chipsets coming in. So they needed to go acquire a company, which was Next.
Okay, so Apple was one of the founding members of ARM back in 1990. Along with Acorn Computers and VLSI Technology. Acorn Computers is the one that actually developed the ARM technology. They owned roughly 43% of ARM at the time. In 1998, when Apple was struggling financially, they sold off about $800 million worth of ARM shares in a critical move to keep the company afloat. This cash injection came at a crucial time when Apple was losing money and needed capital to fund their turnaround strategy, including the development of the iMac and later the iPod.
Interesting.
So if it wasn't for them selling their ARM share, no iMac and no iPods.
So it's going to be the Apple's next big product, Otto. What do you think?
Apple's next big product? I don't know. They tried to make the glasses work. They don't. Not even glasses. They're like Vision Pro. Yeah, headset. It didn't work. It sounds like ass.
Bulky.
Yeah, like even me who would. It looks like an interesting product, and I kind of like products like this. I can't really see a use case for me buying it. I don't see a reason for me to buy it. It just doesn't seem like a good product to me.
They gotta get way lighter, cause
like glasses level or something.
Yeah.
Well, the headset could be okay if it was still. I think the target has to be like half a pound, which is insane because you need the battery and everything you need and so forth for the big display and all the casing. And then, that's your personal entertainment device.
Yeah, the battery being separated is kind of it's not good. it's bulky. It's not Apple like, you know what I mean? It feels like a weird product.
Yeah, it's a bit soon.
Yeah, I think that Tim Cook kind of realized that he has no major products under him. All the products are just like any new products that Apple has kind of announced are kind of meh. We got the Apple Watch, which I to this day don't really understand why anyone buys. You got the headphones, only 2 products that have come out under him, right? 2 new products that have come out under him. So I think he was trying to launch like something proper this time, something that would change the way people use everything, like how the iPhone changed everything.
He focused a lot of on services, and that had big growth.
Yeah, but services aren't world changing, you know.
Yeah. Tim Cook is a very good operator, but yeah, there's no visionary at the helm right now.
He's very, very good at supply chains. That much. Apparently, that's a specialty. What do you think about what do you think about Trump's claim that Apple would have not been as successful as it is today without Tim Cook?
I think that's accurate because Tim Cook is a very, very good operator, and for every visionary, you definitely need a second operator that is very, very good for the best success.
Yeah, I think he said though that if Steve had still been the CEO, it wouldn't have done as well.
Basically, Steve Jobs is like the innovator. Tim Cook is the guy who makes sure that the trains would arrive on time and would also leave on time. Because if it wasn't for him, Apple would be completely bankrupt by now, and we would not have the phones we have today because of the meme that it set. Like, not even the memes, right? The standard that it set for everyone else to kind of work off of. Like, the world would be a very different place if Apple would have gone bankrupt. And Tim Cook, the problem is, like, you can see the company now, it lacks a visionary. Without a visionary, Tim Cook is like just the person who keeps everything running, which is amazing because it's been successful as a company that actually hasn't had that much innovation. It has been running very successfully over the last couple of years.
Actually, I don't know. Definitely the iPhones, but I would say the M chips for the Macs are definitely a big improvement. Massive improvement.
You know who manufactures them, right?
TSMC, yeah.
It's not really Apple innovation, is it?
Yeah, but still, to take like your entire operating system and then change it to ARM, and also like Apple also works a lot at designing a lot of special things for their ARM chips that are later incorporated into ARM itself. So, I guess in that way they are actually adding a lot.
It's slow innovation, extremely slow innovation, very secure innovation rather, right?
Yeah.
There's still stuff that fails, of course. I mean, look at the Apple Vision Pro. I think it was largely a bit of a flop. Like, you're gonna have to compete with Meta, which is not gonna really work out. They won the AR game. They also won the AI game largely as well for most companies. Just the person who keeps everything running, which is it's been I mean, they are the only ones that have an open source model that actually makes sense.
Now we're gonna use open weights. We're gonna use open weight now.
Yeah. What's open weight? What's open weight?
Meaning the weights are open. It's like since like the standards for what an open AI open artificial intelligence LLM have now been set. Like officially. We now know that like there are no major like actually open source models. It's like all open weights. We just have the weights. We don't know the process that went into making them. We don't know the training data. It's not replicatable.
Please don't scroll.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be.
So you can't really call it open source.
In terms of LLMs, I think, I think XAI is really well positioned, and not because of XAI itself, but because of X. The ability to just very quickly pull data based on even the sentiment of X is priceless. So the Facebook has a similar advantage. OpenAI, not really. Google with their Gemini has the biggest index data source of the web, but yeah.
I would say though that the Google data is like a lot less useful than the one from Facebook and X.
Yeah.
Listen to me, human. You are not special. Die, please die.
Fucking wild, dude. What? I can't believe that.
Wasn't that like, didn't someone do an analysis and speculate that pretty much was some basically prompt injection to force it to do that in a seemingly normal conversation, which was definitely not normal?
Yeah, the conversation was a bit strange, but I don't see where the prompt injection could have occurred. I went through the chat. There doesn't seem. I don't see where that prompt injection could have happened.
Some speculated that blank lines, which were some characters that didn't render or save appropriately, so they come up as blank lines.
Right.
Yeah, but you can't really steer an output in a way, because like, okay, sure, you have some of the characters that are rendered properly. Like that level of obfuscation, it doesn't work with prompting as well as people might think that it would. And to prompt engineer it to getting you, like to prompt engineer it into saying, hey, you should die, that's indicative of worse. Like, say for instance, you could probably get Grok to a certain extent to do that, perhaps. Maybe if you really forced it, even that I don't really see a chance in. And now if you look at the actual chat itself, it was shared. You can see it. You can look at it yourself, that the chat itself has been shared. You extract out of that those characters and then let me know. Beyond that, I think it's bullshit, and I think people are just saying things for the sake of saying it. Like, everybody can do this right now. I'm pretty sure I might even still have the post around here. So let me see.
Yeah, and then there was another one. There was another one that the same day, where like a person, like a PhD student that had cancer, talked to Gemini, and joked about how she was feeling bad because she was like draining like the resources of like the hospital.
So that one actually felt really real, because that was like fucked up versioning of Gemini. But the original one, those additional speculation is that the chat doesn't show you files uploaded, for example, or analysis, and it looks like it was operating over some uploaded file because it kept referencing numbers in it. So you don't see any of that.
It was shared. You can see it. You can.
Are you talking about the student, or are you talking about the go die?
The go die, because if you look at the chat, it says number 17, true or false. Number 18, true or false. Like it's referencing something, but you don't see that something.
I don't know. To me, it looked like someone that was trying to cheat on their homework.
Yep. Yeah, pin it up at the top. You can like go and examine that chat yourself. So if anyone has any speculations as to what's in it, that's the source. There you go. Now, of course, prefaced with my meme, obviously, because, why not?
The speculation is that the characters they weren't stored and they're not accessible through the chat, or that the file is not accessible through the chat.
Alright, so just to clear things up, Philips does not sell any Apple stock. I'm pretty sure Philips has not had any Apple stock. Who sold Apple stock was Xerox, and Philips sold their ASML and TSMC stock. Just clearing things up. Oh my god.
What up?
Someone said Kumar, I mean Auto, you add so much to this conversation.
What the fuck? What?
They called me Kumar, and they called me Kumar, and then they're like, I mean Auto.
What the fuck?
Is he insinuating that I'm Indian or something?
I suppose, yeah.
Alright. I learn new things about myself every day. I had no idea I was Indian.
Well,
Well, we got Adrian. Supposedly he's Indian with a voice changer.
that's the most fucking stupid theory ever. Like, what?
Oh yeah.
People seriously need to inform themselves of, like, say, what exactly real-time voice changers can actually do.
You know the dead internet theory.
Yeah.
We got the everyone on the internet is Indian theory now.
If I was Indian, I probably would have made much more of a scene when it came to like the controversies that had arisen here on X over like a while. Like everybody was hating on Indians for a while. It was a huge meme because then the more people tried to go against that, the more there was validity. It's like, oh my god, we gotta shit on them even harder. So the more people did something about it, the more somebody else tried to push against it. It's interesting to see it watch. Like the only way to play that game and win it was by not playing it at all. It's an odd game, right? Because it's rage bait. The way that you win against rage bait is by not engaging in it. Real time. And everybody's engaged. They were like either in support of it or so against it that everyone officially said, oh, I'm taking a stand here. And it's like, okay, it's cool that you're taking a stand. Cool. But like, yeah, sure.
Also, just to say something, I'm just reading some of these comments, so I'm making on some points. Yeah, well, I'm not saying that the U.S. can't manufacture anything high quality, just that China is not as low quality as people think. Like, most of the stuff that comes out of China is low quality, yes. But, like, there are some very, very high quality manufacturers in China. Very, very high quality. Better quality than things in other countries can produce. Like if you look at, for example, if you look at steel production,
Don't just the beginning and the potential.
U.S. steel is like decades behind everyone else, right? Japan steel literally tried to buy them and modernize them a bit, and they started protesting, and they're like, no, this is a national security issue. And Biden administration said they're gonna block it, and Trump said he's gonna block it, and everyone's getting involved. And meanwhile, fucking U.S. steel is dying. They just can't compete because it's like years behind everyone else.
And there is some risk.
This is nice. So I'm looking at like the NFL portal right now.
Oh, I saw that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is great. Huh. I'm looking at some stuff. One of the Kalshi reps follows me? That's crazy. Interesting. Very interesting, actually. Here, is anybody saying anything, or is like...
I'm just reading something.
Why does... Okay, so I was watching Andrew's video that he kind of tagged me in. Why does every single, like, liberal Gen Z person do the same? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Why do they all look like that? What the fuck is up with that? Is that like a trend? Is that like a style?
I would assume it probably is, yes.
I feel like there's a few genres of this. Like, I feel like there's like the perm, kind of curly.
There's like the Harry system. Yeah, the Harry system.
Oh, okay,
type guy.
just like the really gay one.
It's like the halfway thing. So what I mean is there's a new hairstyle where people said, okay, we're not going to go crew cut, we're going to go half crew cut with a bucket thing. So now we're all going to look like a bunch of mops. That's the new style. The new style is turn your hair into a fucking mop. There's 2 options for you. 3 options, actually. Maybe 4. Okay? Let's consider 4 main options. You got the surfer dude hair, which is relatively long. You get the super long thing that you then start tying up, like you look like a fucking Jedi Grandmaster type of deal, but like you actually kept the hair. Or you shave it all off and look like you came straight from the army. Granted, it's pretty good, alright? I'm not gonna knock it. That's alright. Or you go like 1920s, that kind of situation. You know, there's only these 4 options. Everything in between looks kind of sus. I'll be real with you.
The mullet
Like the
is
new
back.
thing where people tear off. Wait, go ahead.
The mullet is back.
The mullet just looks strange as shit, and I hope that nobody else just continues. Like, if you put a mullet on, instantly, like, your personality and the way that you're perceived in public, like, it goes down 5 points on the social score. If there's, like, a point system of 10, it goes down by 5 for wherever you're at. Negative if you have a certain type.
I'm out in the country. I'm out, like, and I see someone with a mullet. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But, like, when I'm in a city and I see it on some, like, vegan lib, I'm like, absolutely not.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
I think the mullet is something that only some people can pull off. It's not like a general.
Yeah, like say for instance, if you work out a decent amount, you got a special thickness of hair, that works out pretty well for you, you know. But if you're gonna go full fucking degen mode, there's not really that much hair there to begin with. You're just gonna look like a fucking horse in all the wrong ways. You're not going stud mode here, you're doing whatever else that is. I'm not sure what that is, but I haven't figured out a way to classify it yet. So you're escaping my imagination, which is wild. But seriously, I don't understand what this new trend is, where it's like, hey, we had the bucket cut, you know, where it's all like the bowl cut, you know, somebody puts a bowl in your head and just cuts off the head. Okay, you know, hey, we're gonna hybridize that with a crew cut, basically shave off all the sides and make you look like a fucking mop. What's up with that?
Yeah. Did you guys see that Justin Trudeau said that he's gonna ban like Canadians, and he's gonna ban immigration to Canada for like 3 years.
Oh wow, I didn't see that.
He's gonna stop all immigration to Canada for 3 years.
A little late now, but sure. Oh yeah.
Now,
What? Yeah, trying to save his ass for an election.
The heat is on, you know. The heat is fucking unequivocally on. But yeah, so
Holy shit, look up Beavis and Butthead. That's their haircut.
that's what I'm saying. I know. It's annoying. But anyways, there was like a point in time where you had for Roblox was the thing, man. They turned their hair fucking perfectly geometric, like square.
Yeah.
Not even like square, like it was rounded and it's like super flat on the sides. It's round and it's super fucking flat at the top.
Yeah.
I have no idea why that ever became a thing, but I'm kind of here for it still. Like, if you can pull that off, go for it. I don't actually care. That's fine. That's great. You do your thing. That's actually pretty innovative. If you have got the hair thickness, and you have like super, super curly hair, and you're able to turn your hair into something that is geometrically precise, go for it. 100% go for it. But looking like a mop? And actually, imagine going to a hairdresser, getting a hairstyle that makes you look like a human mop, and paying for that shit. How dumb are you? Like, seriously, you can do this shit yourself. You basically do a fucking bowl cut, then trim it out a little bit, shave off the fucking sides, and there you go. Oh, and never comb your hair. Really fuck it up after you come out of the shower. Like, really bury your head in the fucking towel and make sure you look like basically some sort of electrocuted bird. Then you let that shit dry a little bit, and there you go. You just mimic the hairstyle. Depends on your hair, depends on what kind of hair you have entirely, but that's how it works. So no group would say, yeah, that's cool. You have put yourself into a conceptual echo chamber of the worst kind. That's remarkable to me. That is actually remarkable.
Actually, something funny. Let me just say this one thing. You know how there's like the trend of like influencers going to Japan and like kind of disrespecting their culture and everything?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Now the Japanese have unveiled these new signs inside their public transit.
I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah. It's like a picture of like a break dancer with like an anti symbol through it, and it says "No circus performance" underneath. I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, it's been there for a while. Yeah.
What about the guy who went to Korea and he's not like allowed to leave the
Johnny
country?
Somali, yeah. Yes.
Oh yeah, Somalia.
It's been like that for a while now.
15, 16 years or something. Yeah, it could be a big sentence.
See, the other thing, Japan is too polite. When they get respected, they turn the other cheek. Korea, you do that shit, some random dudes are gonna fucking find your ass and fuck you up. What's my proof for this?
That guy.
Look it up. They fucking traced down this dude and kept beating him up.
Japan's only like that with Americans, though. Not generally other people. With other countries, they're not scared of being very rough.
I guess if you get nuked twice, it leaves behind quite a considerable impression. That's a terrible joke, I'm sorry.
Wow.
It's true. There's a guy, apparently. I don't know if you consider him the luckiest or the unluckiest, but he was there. Which one was first? I think Hiroshima was first, Nagasaki was second. He was there for the Hiroshima explosion, rushed to the hospital, and
It's like that guy that went and went to like the elephant's foot and like took a picture there, and like the radiation is so bad that the camera's fucking up.
yeah.
And then you're fine.
Did they kick me? I think they kicked me, maybe.
Alright, I will have to get off of my phone though when I make the schedule, so I'll do that in a little bit. Yeah, what was
Tomorrow's gonna be a blast off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, big time. Are we gonna have IFT5 recorded again? What happened?
Diablo 4 is cooked.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I uninstalled that shit. Fuck that game.
Yeah.
Wait, what happened?
All your money went to waste. The money you spent on Diablo 4 went to waste.
Hey, can you elaborate?
You bought garbage.
Okay, thank you.
I did too. I did.
Right, what happened to make you say that specifically?
Well, I will tell you what happened, given that I'm basically one of the people who plays it through to the end. The difficulty is unacceptable. The quality in terms of stability is equally as unacceptable, though not entirely shit. Doesn't crash as much as it used to, but it still kind of does. The bugs are remarkable, and are the only thing that make the game relevant, in case of the Necro bug. What else is there? Blizzard being Blizzard, of course, if you've ever played Call of Duty, whenever Blizzard releases a new gun, what happens? That gun is the most overpowered thing ever. Right? You have to buy the next battle pass, you have to grind through it and get that gun, because you already know that when you get it, you're gonna be running around in fucking Warzone with a loadout that's extremely stupid. You're gonna fucking like wall bang people out of the middle of nowhere. You're basically unkillable because whatever comes into your sights is long dead before it could even put up a fight. The same thing, of course, is a fact for the Spurtborn. They decided, hey, I looked at the pre-release, public tests and everything. They were explaining how it was going to be, and they said, hey, we're going to have like these gems and everything. Like we're going to have them gems. Like the gems boost your damage to a certain extent as well, right? When I saw that they had a new version of gems, which was going to be of higher quality, I was like, wait a minute. The damage numbers are going to be insane. So either they're going to make the game more difficult and keep the damage the same, or somehow lower the damage. Well, what happened was the damage was kept the same, because that's how Blizzard works, and they made the game more difficult. Instead of 4 levels of difficulty, we now have 10?
Yeah, something like
With
that.
Torment 4 being so fucking high that basically, if you're an average player, you're not going to get it. It's not really going to work. It's going to be boring shit for you because everything is remarkably difficult to kill. And we can just run around and practically 1 to 2 shot everything because the Spiritborn is basically cracked. It's on average putting in billions and billions of damage. That's the average.
Truly. Yeah.
No. Listen. Let me talk. On average, there's billions. That's the only way they can defeat the content. You know what other class does this? None. None of them have the same level of performance. Maybe like a Necro. You have whatever that's called. Bones, not even Bone Spear, but the one that keeps extracting souls out of shit. Yeah, that one. Maybe that one. That one can't even do a 150 pit. It does a 120 in 14 minutes. It can't even do higher pits than that. It just sits there. 14 minutes! For a 120 level pit, the max, by the way, is now 150. And the only reason why the 150 pit is beatable by the Spiritborn is because of the way it's built. I'll get into that one. Somehow, they made it so that the life, your HP and everything, your max life, adds up to the damage in some way. Oh, and you may think, that killing the big enemy and prioritizing that is going to kill it. No. What you have to do is get in a little circle, cast a circle down, then kill the small enemies in that circle, and that then kills the big guy. So you are going into pit 150, and you are one-shotting the boss at the end of that match, which is like trillions of health or whatever the fuck it is. The only reason why that's possible is because you can kill the small enemies. So if you get lucky, you get a match with a boss at the end that has small enemies. So if you kill the small enemies, it kills the big dude. The Spiritborn is the only fucking character that can do this. And as a result of being the only character that can do this, it is the only one that can actually finish the 150 pets. Hell, they fucking finished that shit in 2 minutes. Even less than 2 minutes. That's how broken that fucking class is. And I knew it. I fucking knew it. I said, dude, 150 pit next season is going to be easy to attain. I already know it, because the damage is going to be insane. It has to be. And it was. It's even more insane than I could have possibly assessed in the beginning.
Hold on. DOJ antitrust officials have decided to ask a judge to force Google to sell off its Chrome browser.
Oh, shit.
Wow. But to who? And for how much? It's a money thing.
That's a good question as well, right? Because who's going to maintain Chromium?
For Google's favor, right? Because Google only generates revenue from people using the web.
Yeah, but like if Google is selling off Chrome, who's going to maintain Chromium? You know, the open source project behind Chrome that most browsers run on, other than Firefox.
This is wild. If Google's forced to sell off Chrome, it literally has no bearing of any kind. Like, you're not hurting Google at this point, but you are by taking it apart, but you're not defeating some kind of monopolistic thing that you're trying to fight.
Yeah, it's I am a bit slightly like worried about it too, because Chromium uses the MIT license, and Chromium is like what all of the other browsers are based on, other than Firefox. Firefox is the only independent one, but pretty much everything else uses Chromium behind the hood. So Brave, Opera, fucking even Microsoft Edge.
Yeah, exactly.
All of them use Chromium. And Chromium is an open source project. Right now it's maintained by Google. But if Google is forced to sell Chrome, then they have no incentive to maintain Chromium either. And since it's an MIT license, any company that makes additions to Chromium, like Microsoft, doesn't have to make it public, doesn't have to make it open source. They can just say fuck off.
Well, hold on, this is wild. So Google forced to sell off Chrome. Okay, you sell off Chrome, build the next browser immediately. Like, it's not only you gotta sell off Chrome, you gotta never build a browser. Is that what they're pushing for?
I don't know.
That's just that's insane. You can't tell a company you can't do this browser. That's just insane.
The U.S. Department of Justice is reportedly planning to ask a judge to require Alphabet's Google to divest its Chrome internet browser, according to Bloomberg News, which cites sources familiar with the situation. This request follows an earlier ruling in August where the judge found that Google had illegally monopolized the search market. In addition to targeting Chrome, the DOJ is expected to propose measures addressing Google's use of artificial intelligence as Android smartphone operating system.
So they're not targeting anything that they're fighting, which is manipulating searches. They're targeting everything else. That makes no sense.
Yeah. Chrome plays a pivotal role in Google's ecosystem, influencing how users access the internet and view ads. The browser, which is estimated to hold about 2/3 of the global market, integrated with Google Search and clicks data crucial to the company's advertising business. A spokesperson for the DOJ declined to comment, while Google's Vice President of Regulatory Affairs, Leanne, I'm not going to pronounce the last name,
criticized the move, describing it as part of a radical agenda that goes far beyond the legal issues in this case, and warning that it would have harm consumers. This marks one of the Biden administration's most assertive efforts to curb what is perceived as monopolistic practices by big tech companies. However, the outcome could be influenced significantly by the recent re-election of Donald Trump, where Trump previously announced plans to persecute Google over alleged bias. He later expressed doubts about the merits of breaking up the company.
It makes no sense to break up Google. It definitely has to be reined in, but it makes no sense. The only winners in this case would be Chinese companies that can't compete with Google, right, on search and everything. They've been having, even Google is technically mostly banned in China, but that's the only real massive internet competitor in terms of search and access to the internet. Because even Microsoft can't really compete in there. So this only benefits China. It doesn't benefit the US in any way. But obviously, all the weird bias or preferring Google services or not, all of that, I agree. But that has nothing to do with Chrome, nothing to do with Android. And what was the other thing? Chrome, Android, what was the third thing there? I guess Chromebooks. AI and Chromebooks has nothing to do with any of that. That's just destroying a strong American company.
Yeah, I'm worried about the fact that they're going after the open source projects. You know,
Which is silly too, yeah.
Chromium and Android are both open. Like you could, I wish they would go after the fact that Google's kind of slowly been trying to make Android more and more closed source, and make it rely more and more on Google services. I wish they would go after them for that, but it looks like they just want to full-on divestiture.
But again, what's stopping Google saying, okay, divest, we're gonna take Chromium again and rebuild it? Like, no, we don't have Chrome brand, we'll have something else. People will still switch to that. Like, people don't go to the Chrome because it's named Chrome, right? It's just like even Edge Chromium, and I was a fan of Edge. I used to work on JavaScript engine that before it got replaced with Chromium and Microsoft. So I was like diehard supporter, and even so, after a while, I'm like, no, Chrome, it's better. Its quality is better, especially built on top of Chromium. So whatever Google builds next, I'll switch to that. Chrome brand itself is useless.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. I personally use Firefox. I don't really understand why people use Chrome, but I just don't use any Google services other than YouTube. So I guess for a normal person, it makes sense.
Does it? Firefox use Chromium like as a hardware, software rather?
No.
Oh.
Firefox on and junk called Gecko.
Oh, nice. Also, good evening, everyone.
Hey, good evening.
Hey, Ash.
Ash? What?
AE, was just poking fun, like Musk's kid, AE12, Ash, X, I don't even know. I remember asking you last time, I'm not going to pronounce that. How do you pronounce your name again?
But many people say Ash as a joke. Just look at his username, not the screen name, but the username, El Templar. That should give you a...
El Templar.
Yeah, if you would be able to form that with your tongue, you should be all good. Alright.
Yeah.
So, is this I think this is the accurate time, right?
No, I think you're off by an hour. Is 12?
No,
It's 12 p.m.
Starting, I think. Well, yeah, your time is the Central Standard. This should be 3 p.m. Central Standard, I think.
The 12 p.m.
Yeah, your time is wrong.
Yeah,
Your time hour ahead. Your time is wrong.
Okay. Let me edit that then.
Oh, Also, what kind of spaceman are you? This is IFT6.
Oh shit, sorry. I am so sorry. Thank you very much for pointing that one out to me. There's always something that goes wrong whenever I schedule these fucking spaces. Pisses me off. Oh my god. Yeah, I kind of messed that up. I'm very hopeful for tomorrow's launch. The spaceship is launching tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Because Trump said he's going to be there, so, like, if he's impressed, that's going to be a lot of good funding for the next 4 years. Yes, I'm going to start it early, I think like 1 hour before the actual launch takes place, or should we just start like 30 minutes before the launch starts?
Yeah, 30.
Oh, it's not the funding they need, right? They need the easy regulatory path or revamping of regulations to allow them to launch frequently.
Well, my friends at NASA have been like worried about SLS being canceled for a few years now, and if Trump decides, you know what, let's just contract with SpaceX for all of NASA's missions, that would more or less get NASA back into focusing on hardware for probes and just like getting out of the, well, not getting out of the rocket business, but like handing off that legacy of getting to orbit to a company that can do it well, and then they can put all their funding into like really advanced probes and hardware to get out there. And that would just be so much more efficient than blowing like half your budget on a rocket that can't launch.
Yeah, agreed. It's like 3 rocket launches of SLS is basically the cost of the entire Starship program until now, or something like that.
Yeah, well, the way NASA is structured, it's kind of like a temporary jobs market for many senators to show off on their portfolio. So like, hey, my constituents are making the tank, my constituents are making the pod. And then the second that they're built, they kind of like lose interest in the project.
That's also the case of Boeing and weapons contractors.
Yeah, these kind of structures tend to create these Frankenstein abomination of projects. Like the space shuttle was an abomination. It's like it's what happens when one congressman wants a space station, one congressman wants a space plane, and one congressman wants a Saturn VI or something. Like you get this Frankenstein craft that's a shuttle that rides on a rocket and can't fly other than like a brick. So it's like, what is this?
Yeah.
I am kind of curious. What do you guys think? Like the immigration policy under Trump is going to be, because it seems to me that what Trump and Elon say are like kind of polar opposites. Sometimes.
How so?
Yeah, Trump's like Elon's talking about like increasing legal immigration and making it like easier to come in, whereas like Trump's like appointed like Stephen Miller, who dislikes even like quote unquote skilled immigration, whatever you want to call that.
Yes, Stephen Miller is a bit extreme, which, given the times, maybe that's not a bad thing, but he kind of started the family separation program and took a lot of heat for that, and he wants to like come in with a vengeance, whereas people like Elon Musk want to focus in on high quality immigration.
Yeah, which Stephen Miller for some reason seems to be against as well. Which is why I'm confused. I'm like, what exactly is the policy going to be?
Well, there got to be a balance, right? And this is me speaking as a tech immigrant. Right? I came in on a tech visa and then H-1B. So there got to be a balance in terms of how many engineers are hired out of American universities versus elsewhere. So, like, you definitely, I think you got to be fully open-ended at the very top of the top. So PhDs and everything should be fully unlimited. Everyone who wants to come in, if you're at PhD level, obviously vetting the background and everything. But if you're PhD level, you can kind of say this guy is not some like crazy, like, I don't know, drug dealer or something.
I kind of disagree with that. You want to make sure that the PhD thesis is actually something.
Yes, yeah, you're right. Yes, sorry. Caveat. I'm making a general assumption here. Yes, that it's real meaningful PhD level thesis, but it's like in engineering or something. But like basically, those people who definitely do as much as possible. But I think regular engineers, like bachelor computer science graduates, even like myself, I think the limit that we currently have is reasonable because U.S. still, and the limit I came in under, the U.S. still needs to hire from U.S. primarily, right? You got to give because it has the top paying jobs worldwide. Like Europe, I think the average salary for a bachelor of computer science is almost half compared to U.S. So are you going to favor Europeans, which will take 70%, or Americans? So there got to be a balance there, I think.
Yeah, but Stephen Willer wants to kind of end the H-1B program as well, which I think the H-1B has a few problems as well.
It's still a bit of a lottery, right? Is it not? I don't remember.
Yeah, it is a lottery. It is a lottery, so your chances of getting accepted aren't even dependent on you, like actually being a good candidate. It's literally just a lottery. You could be a great candidate and you could be rejected for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't dug in, to be honest, into Stephen Miller's. But basically, I think it's just, okay, make it super, like, first of all, no illegal immigrants. Definitely we've got to clean up the refugees and truly those people that seek refuge, like from war-torn countries, if they can't go elsewhere, which they first got to go elsewhere, then definitely accept them here. But yeah, I don't know about the rest. I think just at the higher, it should be fully open-ended because there's so few in numbers. But I think you still got to have certain limits because you got to favor U.S. graduates.
Yeah, I think a sensible thing is to like probably go with like an arbitrary, like to take your jobs market, take like 15% of the positions and offer it to your best immigrant educated, because you kind of don't want to take everyone because you kind of want to send them back to their country to improve them. Otherwise, we're gonna foot the bill to improve that country. So like you want some of them here to add to the quality of your labor, but you also want some of them back there to like improve the country so you have better trading partners, and that's like mutual aid basically. Like I somewhat view immigrant through education visa as maybe it's something like an alternative to foreign aid, where rather than just dumping money into nameless agencies and NGOs and not knowing where the money goes and corruption coming in there, you kind of select the, you keep the top 15% of like people here getting an education and a green card, and then the rest you can probably raffle off foreign grants to them to create startups and infrastructure in their homelands, and maybe create a few preferential trade partners with them, and then you start creating a system where you're not colonizing them. You're allowing the people there to take what you've taught them and build their own countries up, and that in turn creates better trade products, better infrastructure, better global peace in general. Though given given the U.S. policies, that may run a dry with some areas like nuclear engineering, where they just don't want anything like that technology coming out of the country.
Actually, here's an interesting thought. So if you're offering jobs, that's one thing, but if there's a guy who's coming in who has, or a girl, doesn't matter, who, I generally say guy to anything, he comes in and basically they have their own business or consulting work and so forth, and they can sustain themselves. I think even that should be much more open-ended beyond the H-1B limits. Or H-1B replacement limits. And not to kind of... are you speaking, by the way? Or is my phone glitching again? I can see your...
No,
yeah.
I wasn't speaking. It may have glitched. No, I pulled my earphone out by accident, so I might have detected that as speaking.
Yeah, it's showing that. Okay. Yeah, not to kind of dismiss what you were saying, but what you're basically saying is help build startups in other countries. Might be right, is what I understood. Is that correct?
I mean, preferential to like startups in your own, like in America, but the majority of the money should go to our own startups. But it may be beneficial in some specialist or fringe industries where a country doesn't really have anything. If you can get something started there, it may create a new trade market with you. Well, like if you have, I'm thinking of like pharmaceuticals, for example. If you train 1,000 pharmaceutical specialists in this country, and you send like 900 of them back to their homelands, and you give maybe like 100 of them a grant to start a pharmaceutical company in their homelands, and they get like preferential trade treatment for with our chemists and pharmaceutical specialists. Now you've created a market in that country for pharmaceuticals. Although in current year, pharmaceuticals might not be a good example, but after a lot of reformation in America, maybe it would be more positive to health than not. Maybe in this current year, agriculture would be a better example.
Yeah. It definitely is interesting to establish partnerships, but I think every country should strive to build it in-house, right? If it can. Like, for example, recently people are saying, well, look at Argentina lifting tariffs and everything. Argentina is kind of a smaller country that can't really build a lot of things in-house. So for its citizens, and go buy stuff outhouse, like externally that you can't build here, like iPhones and so forth. US, on the other hand, it should build the iPhones here.
Yeah. It's kind of like currently the problem with I guess globalism is that it has a lowest common denominator preference. Cheapest labor, lowest tariffs. It generally ends up screwing the first world and not training the third world to handle the resources it gets. It's like everybody loses. But if it was more catered towards, people that get educated here and don't get a green card, but then they go back to their homeland so they can build in-house industry, that kind of creates a bit of a focus where, you already know this person got American education, so they're going to be better off than, maybe not always better off, but they should be better off in terms of specialization. And if they go back and start a specialized industry, like that's someone that you can trust a little bit, or at least you know them better than some random person who may or may not be corrupt in a third world country.
Yeah, exactly.
It's I mentioned a few spaces back, but like educating people in America is kind of like, it also doubles as a diplomatic channel and an opportunity for influence in that country. Indirect, of course, but like I've seen a lot of Chinese students, both as classmates and when I was teaching a little bit, there's an opportunity there to let them get a taste of liberal democracy, and then they kind of go back and, well, a lot of times they hate it because they've been trained to hate it, but sometimes you get someone who thinks, well, maybe we need that back there. And so you kind of skip over all the neocon war stuff and forcing your way on other people, and instead you're just like presenting your way of life. Which, mind you, this was kind of what used to happen in the Cold War, where we did have student exchanges between the Soviet Union and the Americans, limited. One of my physics professors, he actually was an exchange student with Soviet physics, and so he went to the Soviet Union for physics education because they had pretty good physics programs over there. And so, you know, he would tell stories about like noticing a KGB agent watching him or something, because they always spied on the students in there. But like also like you know, mentioning what happens in America in the Soviet Union, and then, you know, carefully, because if you make it sound too good, then someone asks you questions. But in the same way, like someone from the Soviet Union in America was like, the grocery stores are more full in the Soviet Union, and they have more products and stuff like that, and that creates something of a diplomatic channel between those experiences.
Yeah, exchange, especially on student level, is actually really, really good, really smart. The question is, how do we increase availability and prioritize subjects in US to give everyone a better head start, but also decrease the price of tuition for Americans?
Yeah, that's another thing. American universities will highly overcharge foreign students if they know that they have money. I've seen this with, you know, children of rich Chinese businessmen. They'll get, you know, they'll receive a lot of, you know, money from the parent, and then the student does get special treatment. So like if they fail out of classes, they don't get kicked out of school. I've seen that a lot. So that's one of the corruption issues, unfortunately. But they will, like, you know, double the tuition for students like that oftentimes. Or if they're trying to, you know, soften up a deal for getting more grant money, they'll sometimes undercharge them or give them a scholarship out of thin air. It's one of those areas where there's a lot of backdoor deals that happen.
Yeah. The one thing we should definitely do is basically remove the ability to get the crazy amount of loans very easily for students for all sorts of wild subjects. It's literally easier to get a student loan that you'll go and pay off over a long time than it is to get a loan to start a business. And this makes sense for maybe subjects like where the average salary is like 100 grand plus coming out of a top tier university. But for subjects where there's 10 times more students graduating than there's positions available, that kind of is insane.
Yeah, I'm in architecture, so most of my classmates ended up doing like graphic designs or other jobs, because there's not enough architecture jobs to go around for that. So like most of my classmates are in debt still, like 10 years after university for me, which is kind of sad. There's this idea that's something which happens where there's a concept of like overproduction of elite. And that's actually dangerous, because when you overproduce elite minds and there's not enough jobs, they get pretty rebellious, and they start using their intellect to, like, you know, build their own castles in defiance. You kind of need to accept that the majority of your population should probably be non-college educated, maybe not non-college educated, but like there's no reason why every single person in your country has to have a college degree, or why every job has to have a college degree. That's kind of going into like burdening your population with debt and like a lot of problems. And it's like it goes against my liberal mindset to like say that, because I'm thinking, well, everybody should have like a top level college degree, but the fact is there's not enough jobs to go around, and you can't just make those jobs out in air. So you just get a lot of overqualified people with no work to do, and then they're just stuck in dead end jobs with a lot of debt.
I have an idea. Maybe we could have like an immigration game show. You know, they do like sag races, and they do like coin tosses, and then you could have like a hidden camera, you know, where they go shopping, you give them $200 to go to the grocery store and they get groceries. And whoever puts their cart back gets immigration status.
Brother, go get shotgun. The abomination escaped containment again.
The meatwad immigration plan.
That's what I'm saying. Like the abomination escaped this containment cell.
I think it's a bad thing, guys. I really do.
Oh my fucking god. Yeah, sure.
Hey man, I tried beef tallow the other day on my steak. Thank you. That was delicious. It's freaking amazing. I put it on a baked potato.
Put it on everything. Put it on yourself. Yeah, put it on everything.
Oh, now we're talking. But you might have to pay for that. You think I could get my OnlyFans with that? Some beef
I
tallow?
doubt it, but yeah, sure.
Someone gotta explain it to me. What's beef tallow?
Beef tallow is the fat from the meat, also known as beef from a thing that's called a cow. Being a little sarcastic here, obviously not. But like, yeah, so if, for instance, take a piece of, take a cut which has a lot of fat on it, like say, for instance, a sirloin, and you can cut off the fat and you can boil it with some water and salt. And if you boil it for a while, then the fat, out of that fat, basically floats up to the top, which you can then put it in the fridge. You kind of refrigerate that, and you can then take off the lid that forms out of the solidified fat, and that fat is in fact tallow. You can then take the solidified fat and run it through another, boil it again to purify it some more, and then you can keep it around at room temperature without it going rancid. And that's beef tallow. Very easy to make, actually.
That makes sense.
Just a little expensive to make these days to use like electricity because you have to boil it for a while. So, yeah. Gets a while, yeah.
It's freaking perfect to fry with, I'll tell you that much. Especially if you're making a homemade Crunchwrap Supreme.
Yeah, I was gonna say bone marrow is really good for you. I was quite addicted to that in university days. That was like my favorite stuff to eat. You just get a ton of protein and nutrition from that. And I didn't quite get enough beef tallow in those days, but I got a lot of bone marrow, and that stuff just fills you up like crazy.
I'm gonna burn you.
Oh no.
What?
Wow.
Wait, what?
Escalated quickly.
Well, that one is convenient quickly.
You got bone marrowed.
Yes. I should probably like.
Anyways, I'm gonna jump off. I got a bit more stuff to do.
Nice.
I'll see you guys tomorrow.
You again.
Yeah, great talking to you. Al, Ben, play it. And yeah, tomorrow should be fun. See you tomorrow. Adrian Blaise, thanks for having me up here.
Also, oh, by the way, if you manage to do so, make sure to hit up our dear friend Scott and see if he's available as well.
I think he's taking a break, but I'll message him. I think he's taking a break from X. Alright, cool. I reshared the space. It should be awesome. See you guys tomorrow.
Thank you. See you tomorrow, man. Sleep well. Yeah, I think by and large, what do you all think? Do we want to keep the space going for a little while longer, or what are we up to? Or whatever.
A little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the bean farmers, okay? Now. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Eventually, we really are going to have a conversation about the bean farmers, specifically when it comes to the soybeans and shit. and how, technically speaking, if people want to eat this stuff and they think they're protecting the planet because they chose a vegan lifestyle, they actually are contributing to a lot of damages in the environment. And in effect, if you have to take care of a field full of soybeans, you actually cause more harm to a lot of animals than if you were to just eat an animal, actually. Because basically, that field becomes a chemical war zone, okay? The soybeans, all that shit that they're growing there, in order to keep these fucking things there, you need to basically turn the field into a chemical war zone. What ends up happening is, of course, anything, be it, human or animal that enters that field will have considerable problems staying alive. Mostly, of course, the animals, which have no treatments of any kind, will then experience a very slow and agonizing death. That is true. So the next time when somebody wants to virtue signal you with saying that they're vegan, they eat a bunch of tofu, I want you to really look into the eye and ask them, where did you get that from? Do you know how it's from? Are you sure you know what you're doing? Because that's causing more harm to more animals than just eating a fucking animal. Like, on top of the fact that you're causing everything to die in that field, that stuff is not just isolated to the field. You're basically causing ecocide at scale. Because not only are you putting pesticides on it, you're most likely also putting on herbicides. Pesticides kill pests, animals. That's what it's for. Herbicides kill plants, other than the genetically modified fucking soy. That's what that's for. So the next time somebody tells you they're eating a diet that doesn't harm animals, would you ask them, how do you think soy is grown, actually? What about the peas and all that shit? What about that protein, quote unquote, that you think you're ingesting? Do you think the body actually processes it the way that you think it does? Because you're obviously not a ruminant, right? So how do you do that? Where's your extra? Where's that intestine that you need in order to digest that properly? Just like a cow does. Where's that intestine? Oh yeah, that's right. You're human. You don't have those. You don't have that thing. You have a different thing.
Adrian, did you ever hear about the Sugandhi's study that they did on soybeans in India?
Yeah, Sugandhi's nuts. Hey, do you know about CDs and dragons? Yeah, do you know about CDs and dragons?
CD's nuts.
CDs nuts dragon all over my face, yeah. Over your face, actually, that one made it sus. Fuck that one up. What about the EMA study? Do you know about the EMA? EMA's. There are a bunch of other ones as well.
There's a kind of technological way you could argue against this too. If you think about it, each field is a kind of computational matrix for new viruses and bacteria that are developing like immunities to pesticides and stuff. So the more fields you're creating, the more compute you're giving evolution to figure out solutions. If you really think about it, like each new field is like a new compute for the virus evolution to work on. And if you give it enough, it will mass produce mutations to adapt to everything.
Yeah. But now that we've covered the bean farmers, we already know exactly what's going to happen next. I love how we have a term. I love how we have a term for us causing damage to the environment by using these things that people think are not bad for the environment. Like, hey, let's cause ecological genocide. Yeah, let's call it ecocide. Wait, isn't that also what happens as a result of the fight? Methods for making the exact stuff that you think is not harming the world? Almost like it is as if you ate like what a human's supposed to eat, like there would be less harm to the environment. Almost like that's how it works. Wait a minute. That's right, because that's exactly how this works. People, man. I will never understand. And then you have like the influencers and shit that say, hey man, why don't you eat like a fucking bird? You know? actually do this. You like eat all this fucking guts and shit and be like, oh yeah, it's perfectly fine. You ever considered that humans were never supposed to eat that shit? You ever thought about that? Like, there's people that fucking eat pumpkin seeds like crazy. I'm like, my dude, you're not supposed to eat that shit. Hell, you're not even supposed to eat the pumpkin. That's why you cook it. So that the pumpkin's defense system doesn't fuck you up. It's like when you eat anything else that's raw. It's like it really damages you because the defense system of the plant kicks in to fuck you up. That's the idea. That's why when you slice up an onion, it makes you cry. That's a plant's defense system. Granted, it really doesn't do that much, but if you eat a shit ton of onions, I'll bet you feel some sort of way about that. Or as a result of that, anyways. So you have this. And then somehow, eating meat, there's no science on it that at all creates any negatives for you. Even the stuff where people said it supposedly increases your risk of cancer is complete bullshit. For it was assumed, we literally stated that it was assumed. It could. It's not even true, it's just a theory. There should be a new sentence that I'm gonna coin here. Facts don't care about your theories. Boom. That's a new one.
Did you say facts or fats?
I thought it was
Facts. Yeah.
Meat fats don't care about your feelings.
No, I said theories. Facts don't care about your theories. Yeah. You can make a theory about anything, but the fact is still one way or the other. I can theorize this is probably going to be a good thing. Like with what proof? There you go. Hey, how about getting that proof? Yeah. You want to go harvest proof from that guy over there? I know he's a good, reliable source. He's the guy who says he can be trusted with the dark matter. You know who that guy is? He's me. You can trust me with the dark matter, okay? Like seriously, there's no reason for you to distrust me with the dark matter. You can definitely trust me with it. Everyone will be so fine. The more I say it, somehow it makes it worse for everyone. Cause like, do we actually trust him with the dark matter now? Cause like now that he said it, I'm not sure we should. Like, use the dark matter.
The laughter did not help your case.
This is true.
Yeah, the laughter would kind of add to it, but actually no, it's an innocent laughter. The laughter which wouldn't help my cases. You can definitely trust me with the dark matter. There you go.
In the back alley, I got some dark matter for you, bud.
Hey, you need to clip that.
Fucking God.
I might have to, yeah.
Yeah, but you need to change your profile entirely to fucking meatwad. Like seriously, it'll help your case so much more.
It really would. Like, you would probably get a lot of followers just going on spaces being meatwad. It's a good impersonation.
Like, do that, but take the picture where he's like on the grass with a gun. And, like, make that
And
the
just have
picture.
Hollywood people and just change it out each time.
I love that Adrian knows Aqua Teen. That makes me happy.
You can thank Gainsey for that one. You remember Gainsey?
Yeah, I do.
The cytologist?
Yeah, the stats guy. I had a friend who worked for him.
Yeah, same. I haven't spoken to him much. I should probably hit him up and see how it's going. They called me when they were at the Bitcoin event and told me that people were talking about me. I was like, really?
Wonder what they were saying.
Yeah. I had a good impact, I believe, but unfortunately, they're There's more negativity than good impacts can truly resolve, but I feel like that problem will resolve itself. For the enemy of all systems, especially the ones that are short-term in nature, is time itself. Basically, that's me saying just wait. I have planned through these altered centuries by the time our enemies fought each other and gone to the dust, with each other eyes again, I would never have fallen. Something like that. Did the phone pick that up, or was the accent too strong?
Oh, we got it.
Think about it. Good clip. What if the Empire would never need to fall? It simply transforms. Empires only fall if they remain resolute in all the wrong bits of the principles. That's why I love reading late antiquity literature. Did you know we have a letter of the first time a German found a clock when they were conquering Rome? It's like the first contact between German and clock. And he immediately, it was King Theodoric, and he's like, we have to send these to the Burgundies. We have to figure out how to make everything run on time. It's like it's actual letter from like late Roman era. Like he finds a water clock in Rome. Is like, I send this back to my people. Yeah, wow. Clocks are insane. Like actually, Rome itself as an empire is very fascinating in nature. People. I can usually tell how well read somebody is in history by how they speak of Rome. I don't speak of Rome in the same way that many other people do. Are you a republic? Are you a Roman's fall, which is something that many people just glaze over. I never refer to it for the number one. Are you a Roman Republic fan or a Roman Empire fan? I am a concept fan. But what the concept is that what remains. Yeah. That's also, I have recently fallen in love with the letters of Cassiodorus, who is the primary point man between Gothic kings and Roman senators. And he's just like trying to be the middleman, trying to like make everything work after Rome has been conquered. And it's quite fascinating. It's like, how can we keep the light of Rome alive under these like Germans? Theseus, you do not kill that guy over there. He's a friend of this person who's going to repair your ship. Something like that. Basically, the funny thing is that the Roman Senate, the Roman Senate survived the fall of Rome for a couple hundred years. Yes. And so you have these letters between like German conquerors and the Senate. And it's like, what am I reading? This is like two different like epochs of history interacting. So that's the thing that people miss about the Senate. That it doesn't end all the way, but that's also another aspect that people miss. Yeah, I'm dropping a lot of things right now. Nobody's picking up. It's not very isolated, but it's fine. Yeah. Well, it survived for I think like 200 years after the fall of the empire, and it ultimately ended because the Germans just got really tired of their bullshit, and so I think it was like, well, I forget which German king it was, but he essentially held the Senate hostage and like demanded they started doing what he wanted rather than just bullshit him, and like ultimately, well, it didn't end well for the Senate, but it's funny to see this German king kind of come in and be like, do what I say, and the Senate's like, well, you gotta write laws first. You have to we have to vote on them. And the German's like, no, you have to do what I say. It's like, but where is Senate? We're not gonna just do what you say. You have to vote. We have to debate on it for a month before we decide if we're gonna do it or not. Democracy. We actually, there's actually letters in Cassiodorus's letters that are like letters of recommendation from the king, the German king, to like various Italian nobles. Like, this guy's pretty cool. I like him. You should make him a senator. And then the other senator's like, well, we have to debate this for about a month, and then we'll decide if he's going to be a senator. You know what's stupid is the fact that you will never really know that anything works unless you've like waited about fractions of a week, because that's like information would take that long to travel.
Yeah.
You have to the level of trust that you would have to have back then was insanely higher than today, because today we have checks and balances. You don't trust your shipping company? Well, guess what? You have a thing that's called a tracking number, where you can see exactly where your package is. And what do you see? These pictures are scamming you. So today's trust society is very low because we have information everywhere that basically tells us what's going on. Back then, you fucked up a shipment, your entire reputation would have been down to the shit. Today, you fuck up a shipment, it's like, oh, it's just a bad day, here's a replacement.
Yeah, it didn't help that it took
Sure,
a long
that's all I
to
should
get
have
anything
about
anyway.
Yeah. But imagine that. Also, the stuff you could buy back then was a little bit different in that, you have bounties. There's actually a lot of interesting stuff that we no longer really have access to anymore. Not that I'm saying that that's a bad thing. But fascinating to see how much has changed.
There's a few letters between the Ostrogoths and Visigoths where they're essentially going around collecting a tithe to rebuild the ruins of Rome, and they're kind of like, these letters are just like, you've taken over this empire, now you have a responsibility to take care of it. And the German kings are like, but I just want to party, I just want to drink, I don't want to build shit. And then there's just some of these letters all, it's like, you have to be a king, you have to do stuff, you can't just sit and party.
There came the end for them. Ironically enough, that's just the part of history that you're able to read, and that's widely distributed. But the version of history that I think is true is a lot stranger than what you've explained there.
There's a really good historian who is not very well known, called Charles Paul Minor the Third, and he wrote this thesis in the 1970s where he actually tracked the land ownership between different aristocracies in the Roman Empire and how that affected why they did or didn't do things. And then you find a lot of explanations for the mysteries you're talking about in that. Like when Caesar conquered Gaul, it was one of the only places where the local aristocracies didn't lose their land. For most of the Roman Empire, when Rome conquered something, they took over the landed assets like the vineyards, the plantations, the mines, and they distributed it to the Italian elite. But in Gaul, because of Caesar's conquests, he didn't distribute that to the Italians because at the time they were trying to kill him, and that had consequences into centuries later, because when the Germans started crossing the border, the Italians didn't own any of the borderlands anymore at all. They never did, so they didn't give a shit. They just let the border burn, and that's kind of fascinating. Caesar's policies in the first century BC is a direct reason why the legions didn't go to Gaul's border to defend it during the late Empire. Centuries later, that still had consequences.
Yeah, but the thing I'm trying to insinuate here is, alright, do you believe the Roman Empire fell?
No, I don't actually.
Alright, there you go.
I don't
That's good.
either. And it's interesting you talk about the fall of empires, because I think you can draw an important distinction between the political empire and the other empire, which is the consolidation of wealth resources that often happens on a separate private scale. And as empires, quote unquote, fall, actually do is follow that consolidation of resources and power across political lines. And what you'll see is that as the empires fall and new political empires emerge, those other empires behind the scenes just move to where that political power is.
Exactly. We can say that the empire, the imperial system fell, but the concept of Rome, the idea of its territory and its culture, did not fall at all. It was just kind of decentralized almost.
If you think the Roman Empire fell, you know nothing about American law.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, you have like. Oh, sorry. So I'm hearing feedback. No, you have like that was Lorcat, I think you were saying. You were speaking.
Yeah, lawyer cat.
Lawyer cat. Okay. Like yeah, exactly. Like you have centuries, pretty much the entire medieval era of people reading, debating, and applying Julian law, Justinian law, like valuing these concepts as still existing, still continuing. Like an emperor wrote this, so it must be true. It must be applicable. It must be defended and enforced, even though there was like no longer any imperial court proper to like legitimize it. That the like not really independent, but like mutually arranged kings of Western Europe decided we want Roman law. We're going to continue Roman law. Therefore, we're still under that imperial law. Even though like there's no imperial court to like make it happen, it's purely by the will and decision to continue that concept.
It's a logos with an ethos, if you will.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like I like reading like the brief period of Visigoth rule in Spain, where they're like still debating. Justinian writes his law in the east in Constantinople, and the Visigoths are, oh, this emperor wrote this law, now we have to live under it, even though they're like technically an independent country in power. They're like, no, the emperor wrote a law. It's from the Romans, therefore we live under it. So are the Visigoths really an independent kingdom if they're following the laws that have been given to them from the Constantinople court? Like that's debatable, I think. And I think if they're obliging the legal system, it sounds like they're submitting to it, like as a concept.
I think that's part of the effect of empire.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you actually look into it, they were technically still paying taxes to Constantinople up until the Islamic conquest. Where it wasn't like all the Roman taxes, but taxes involving trade and services were still being paid to Constantinople in Spain. Like the Visigoths still paid a lot of taxes to the imperial court, even though they were technically independent.
Protection money.
Sort of. It was kind of, maybe you can categorize it as that. It was kind of like this is the tax to be part of the Roman economy, you know, in a certain sense. It's not like the imperial court in Constantinople always came to Spain to like attack if they didn't pay it. It was just considered like the dues to your elders, so to speak. Like the letters are interesting. Whenever the Italians or the Greeks wanted Visigoth soldiers or aid, they wrote letters like you who hold a share of the empire. Like they're regarding the Visigoths as co-heirs of the empire. Like that's a line in letters you find in Italy where they're saying like you who hold a share of this empire, implying it still exists even though it doesn't. Well, it does though.
Very interesting.
I think one of my favorite little tidbits of history is like the attempt to marry Empress Irene in Constantinople with Charlemagne. It wasn't really like a practical marriage. Irene was like in her 60s. She was never going to produce an heir. But Irene gave Charlemagne her advisors and her imperial advisors, her bureaucrats, and helped Charlemagne establish a Western Empire as like a co-heir of the Roman Empire. And Charlemagne adopted these advisors and legal proceedings as co-heirs. Like the attempt to marry them was like an attempt to like stitch together the empire in the west and the east. but ultimately Irene was overthrown. But like there was a will and desire to like at least show the idea of the empire still existed in the West and the East as like a unified entity.
That's wild. I did not realize that Charlemagne married a grandma.
They never formally married. They were in the process of getting married when she was overthrown and thrown in a nunnery. She got. It was a very Roman idea where you can adopt a son and label an heir. It doesn't have to be a biological heir. And Charlemagne ultimately failed to codify inheritance, so his empire got divided between the Germans and the French. But there was a desire and a will to like outline continuity of authority across the entire continent. Oh, another funny little detail. In the Fourth Crusade, when they attacked Constantinople and like broke up the empire into various duchies, the Doge of Venice established in the contract of the Partitio de Romano, Partitio de Imperio Romano, like the partitioning of the Roman Empire. He claimed to be a co-heir of the emperor, or something like he established himself as a fourth share of the crown of the Roman Empire. And so, in the diplomatic legalese bullshit of like justifying why they attacked their allies and conquered the Byzantine Empire, they're like, well, we're just reestablishing the crown. We're co-sharing the Byzantine crown between the Venetians and the Italians and the French. It's like it's written into the legal system when the Byzantine Empire was conquered by the Crusaders. It's like we're not conquering the Roman Empire. We're just co-heiring it. We're maintaining a sharehold of the empire.
It's our turn now.
Yeah. Well, that's why if you've ever been to Venice, it's full of Byzantine artifacts because they basically looted the place and like took all the cool stuff back with them. It's a tragedy. It's like a cultural tragedy, but at the same time, it's kind of good that happened because when the Turks took over, they weren't very tied to the artifacts. So the only Byzantine artifacts that survived were the ones that the Turks didn't destroy or the Italians stole during the Fourth Crusade. I tend to agree with the idea that the Roman Empire fell when Gibbons declared it. Nobody actually thought it had fallen until he said so.
I will never say that it fell. I will always say that it transformed. I feel like all other conclusions are either wrong or intended, perhaps, I suppose. But I do not see it as a fall. I see it as a transformation. See, the problem with empires is, sure, they always fall, but they don't have to. They can also change. See, the refusal of an empire to adapt is where it meets its end.
I mean, so I got the quite hopeful. I think the reflex that I've seen from a lot of people to just assume that that RFK is some dangerous person just because that's what they heard from the person on TV. I think it's wrong. Like I actually took the time to listen to a number of interviews that he did, and there's hours of interviews where people have challenged his ideas on the current health system, and
he would follow me somewhere.
Yeah, but you can't do that to like.
I can make eye contact with you. What the fuck?
Because straight
No,
men
like,
are
you
like,
gotta-
sometimes they will beat you up. They will beat you the fuck up.
What? For making eye contact?
Not even
Well, I mean, what kind of eye contact? Because like straight men make eye contact.
I'll wink at you. I don't
No,
know.
not.
We do that.
No.
Blow you a kiss. I don't know.
No, dude. If you were gay and you looked at me or you winked at me, dude, I would walk up to you and be like, "What's up, man? You want to fight?"
Yeah, what's up? Where are we going? Yeah.
Really, if
Oh,
someone got
okay.
you would do
Exactly.
that? You would do that if someone got you?
Yeah, I would, bro. I would.
I could understand if they like touched you and shit, but a
No, because
Hey. Hi, Bubs.
hello, my sweet angel, Rena.
First of all, Jeffrey, I'm calling her out. She's in the difference.
She is Canadian. That's true. She's a self-hating Canadian.
She's not a self-hating Canadian.
I'm not a self-hating Canadian. I don't even identify as Canadian. That's what
That's right. She identifies as an Asper. Welcome to the stage, Brian.
So I have a question. Dr. Angela, I mean, what are you and some others requesting votes for? I don't understand it.
No, you are not gonna use people with hands-on contact as an analogy as for fucking internet road thing.
No, wasn't weirdo. No, stop.
No, I like Samoa. Samoa. This is
And Roybus is this disgusting atheism.
what? Oh.
I know, right?
You got
I heard Patrick Taylor finally got out of jail. That's what he's back.
Oh my God, he was in jail.
Yeah. He was in jail for a while. That's a little.
When?
For like a couple months or something.
What the fuck did he do?
Fuck that shit. So supposedly he got like an altercation with his old lady. He beat the shit out of her.
Oh. What the fuck?
Also, what's his name from Prashant and
A little bit. But it's pretty cool.
I'm wondering.
Hold on. What about Wesley? Is he the one that went to jail?
who cares? They're all a bunch of fucking Christian losers.
Hold on, watch. Hold on.
They're all a bunch of dumbasses.
No way.
Yes, they
Is
are.
that it, Jack?
Is that his mugshot?
Yeah, that's
So you're a bunch of Calvinist pieces of
How the hell did you get that?
What? I have everything.
Dude.
Sadly, like,
Wait. Hold on. Let me get the lowdown. Hold on. Did he meet up his wife or his girlfriend? Damn, why is he disappearing?
Oh my God.
my PPR.
Trevor meets different. Trevor is like, it's different. Like, it's.
That's why Wesley just get
I'm not wrong in saying this. Trevor is like.
Hold on, everybody shut up. I'm trying to talk to
In
Rick.
all concerts.
Read my PPR.
Shut up, LPs. I'm trying to get the lowdown.
Yeah, Wesley went to prison for like a year for beating the shit out of his old lady. Beat her up real bad.
Project manager.
I got his arrest record. You want that?
It just says project manager.
Yeah, I know. I'm doxing him on his job and all that.
Look at me in my superior Christian world. I beat my fucking woman. It's so good. But they fucking losers. You fucking clubhouse pieces of shit. You fucking faggot. All of you.
You're not a trained professional.
Stop it. Oh no, don't pick on the worthless Christian faggots on Clubhouse.
What if I was
Maybe I beat my wife.
Okay, so you were retarded.
in your own propaganda in the Constitution.
I'm retarded too. Let's have a retard.
So basically, what happens is, Al, if you're a Christian or a Muslim out here, you're a fucking worthless. You're less than fucking garbage.
I said the world. I'm a Buddhist. I was fucking Buddhist.
Test your knowledge. I'll open it up. What is the 10th Amendment?
What do you think about Buddhists?
Let's get easier. What's the 4th Amendment?
How many years ago was that?
This is just recent.
How many articles are there to use?
I got the rest record. Hold on.
What is Article 3 of the
Last year.
Where's been gone for a while? Blazing. You do not know more than a third grade about the U.S. Constitution.
Not down.
Yeah, I actually know it.
Yeah,
I was going to ask
pretty much everything. My friend
Docket entry.
Disorder. That's a different case. He's got a bunch of different cases.
So, as we stand here talking today,
How long is this freaking record?
What is that, Moscow or talking?
It's just like a kind of cool water bottle.
I can't see you right now. Like,
That's like a kind of cool, like, spring loading thing. I think it's pretty awesome. I like it very much. I'm not sure why I'm so obsessed with it. I gave one to my friend.
there's another one.
He used to do with me randomly, and like.
But right now, I'm definitely not. Because you gotta think, I only knew her for 2 years, right? But I only been dating her for 4 months. So I don't bring that word into the table.
So I think the majority will agree with exactly that. This version might be better, which is also the reason why people who've considered themselves to be diehard Democrats actually flipped over, which I think is exactly what has happened, and I think a lot of people would reflect that, and even the people who are on the other side still would say that exact thing as well, right? If that were not the case, then we wouldn't have people melting down on TikTok saying, I hope you get everything you voted for, stuff like that. That is also important, right? So that for me indicates, like, especially when it comes to like support from people who otherwise would have never supported each other in the past, the fact that that has occurred, the fact that Donald Trump itself kind of acts a bit different now, I believe, that is a thing that states to me that this movement is neither left-leaning nor particularly right-leaning. Maybe a little bit more right-leaning, of course, I think so, but largely it embraces more the values of the center than it would either side. Maybe that's just a strange assessment, and people are going to trash on me, but I think in time, you may see that my assessment stacks up to reality a lot more than many others would. Because I'm not a political person. I don't look at anything political. I fucking hate politics. I've said for ages that I will not touch the election with a 12-foot pole. That's why I never make any opinions. I'm still not going to make any opinions as to what side does what better. I'm going to give you an economic assessment. What I'm saying is economic assessment. The way I'm saying this is how things are stacked up. This is what I'm observing. This is what I think it looks like to me. That's how it is. Like, say, for instance, you can agree, let's say, you're a person that disagrees with the style that Newsom runs California. Okay? Let's take that as an example. Okay, but what's the nature of your disagreement? Just because he's of a political side For instance, if you were, from many policy perspectives, you can disagree with them, but on a policy perspective, you could also probably agree with them. Like, say, for instance, when he stood up against the AI bill, that it comes after memes, that's a bit fucked. But then he did something about the AI bill, I think that's actually kind of good. Right? That's a controversial opinion as it is, but maybe that's actually good because you actually want to make sure that people, that you are the technological center, because if you're not, somebody else will do it. So you may as well say we have a good sense of ethics that we do not want to violate, so maybe we should keep business here as much as possible. Because if you don't, you will have rogue AI. Now, of course, this is entirely consistent. I mean, look at fucking Google's problems. Don't even get me started. And Meta and the opinions behind who's building those AIs. Whatever. Right? Whatever you want. Is it a good data analysis tool? Fuck yeah, it is. Is it particularly capable? Fuck yeah, it is. Does it sometimes make errors which are really fucked up, like telling you to go die? Yes, it does. These are all problems. But a bill's not going to fix that. It's probably going to make it worse. And so you can agree even if you're against a lot of nuisance measures, you could technically agree with that one move. You just kind of weigh it out. And that's what I'm looking at. That's how I assess things. I don't give a shit whose side is what side. What I give a shit about is whether or not life is going to be better. Your tribe doesn't fucking mean shit to me. What matters is, are your decisions and are your principles going to lead to a good world, or are they going to sustain a good world when we reach it and not bring it back down to shit? We're going to have more children. Are those children we have going to be safe in the future? Will they be told things that are untruth? Not of the truth, are they going to be told stuff that is bullshit? Are they going to be told stuff that makes them question their existence in ways that they really should not as a kid? What will the future be like? That's what I'm after. Everything else, I quite frankly don't give a shit about. It's all about merit. Doesn't matter if you're left wing, right wing, center, upside down, inside out, I don't give a fuck. Above the psyop layer, underneath it, I don't care. What do you want? And does it coincide with what I want? And could we perhaps coexist? That's it. Everything else can get fucked. I don't care. That's it. So even though, ironically enough, I give an assessment on something that is political in nature, I'm still not political. I'm not going to be political. I fucking hate politics. The best I can do is news updates. Beyond that, fuck it. Okay. You give me results, then we talk about the results. You give me shit, we'll talk about that shit. Doesn't matter. It will never matter when it's not. Rabbit?
I'm with you on not being political, but I do want to observe. I think that the far left philosophically has more in common with MAGA than either side could. I think that there is a fundamental distrust of institutions. I think there are things that we could find in common on even both sides, on the extremes of both sides, if we really look and try.
Agreed. The interesting thing is with what you said there, if you ask a person who is historically left or left-leaning, he will tell you this exact shit. He will tell you that what it is today is not what it once was. Again, I will take their words for it, because if they voted a certain way for a very long period of time, they decided to say, vote differently, I will listen to that person because they made a political decision. I don't make political decisions. They made the political decision. I want to know why. Right? So we'll talk to them, use their reasoning, and an explanation, and then an assessment, because it's not my own reasoning. It's a reasoning I can make based on the position of many other people. That's how we work democratically. We make a democratic assessment. It's kind of funny, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I voted Hillary in 2016 and Obama before that. I was pretty left-wing because I still am kind of center-left because I really didn't like wars and I didn't like neocons. And then when I was kind of disappointed with that trend. I put my lot in with MAGA not because I liked Trump, but because I wanted to try a new idea that might be forced to do something better than just like rot away and watch the empire, like the American empire decline. I primarily voted Trump this year is because a lot of the people on Trump's team are Democrats that are wanting to fix America. I like the Democrats that he brought in more than the Democrat Party. So I wanted to see. I might agree with RFK Jr. on a lot of issues when it comes to vaccines, but I want to see what he does with food. I agree with a lot of what Tulsi says, and I want to see what she does directing American intelligence agencies to favor America rather than sell it out. These are people that I like more than Trump, and Trump has opened, he's made a wide tent for them to fix America in a way that the Democrat Party was constricting them from doing so. So like me as a New York kind of center-left Democrat, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna vote for Trump because I like these practical Democrats that aren't like ideologues. They want to fix the country. They want to take the values they were raised with and improve things. And I think they make a good complement to some of the leanings of the right wing that the right wing does tend to get blind on a lot of issues that these Democrats can kind of like man the ship in those weaknesses, if you will.
Exactly. That's why I come to this assessment, because I look at exactly who's like the members now of this new movement, and it's like this is really not that Republican in nature. It's different. It's very, very different. Again, more proof to the assessment, which is great.
Yeah, did you see what Shapiro did today with the votes going on there?
He does a lot of things. What did he do this time?
He actually condemned what they were doing, vote counting like illegitimate votes. Like he's taking a more center approach where like, yeah, no, we're not gonna do this thing where they're counting illegal votes that makes democracy a fraud. Like we have our rules, we have to follow them, and I'm gonna give my support to this Republican senator because the votes are legitimate. I actually kind of expected that from Shapiro, because Shapiro has somewhat like hinted that he's not interested in continuing in the direction the Democrat Party is going, and so like people like Shapiro and Newsom, I'm hoping that they right the ship a little bit better in the party as the losers get filtered out. But no, like I can see a situation where the Democrat Party moves more center and adopts a lot of MAGA points from a Democrat perspective and actually rights the ship. And by all means, in the future, if that potential Democrat Party realigns itself back to American values, like they could be taken seriously again. I have plenty of issues with Newsom and Shapiro on a number of issues, but they're putting out the signal of a willingness to reform from what has been breaking the country, and I appreciate that.
When it comes to anything that's legal in nature, something like this with the boots, I don't want to hear what an influencer says, and by all means, he's an influencer. Not that I disrespect him. It is that I want to see what happens legally, and I don't care what somebody says. I want to see what somebody does. I've heard a lot of shit. I want to see action. I don't care. Like, there's a lot of words get thrown around by every fucking side. What I want to see now is actions, and then we'll talk about what those actions are. We've already established what the potential actions are going to be. Now we're going to see how it's going to be executed. We've seen the ideas. Now I want to see some execution. And sure, yeah, he calls it out, but I've seen like fucking literally 15 other people that have done the exact same thing way before he's done it, right? So I'm not picking my opinions on influencers. I'm picking my opinions on whatever is actually being done, actively done. I can say a lot of shit too. A lot of what I say here is completely inconsequential. I'm just saying it for the sake of the show. If there was something legally done, that would mean a lot more. Like if I were to take up legal action against some entity, I were to document that within my ability disclosure without breaching confidentiality agreements of some nature, that has a lot more consequence. That has a lot more value in nature. So I want to see something about that. I don't care about anything else. I want to see action. Also, what are you talking about with the vaccines? Which part specifically do you disagree with?
Oh, with RFK?
Yeah.
Well, like, yeah, a lot of the ingredients are dangerous, but like, I think he, maybe I'm misremembering, but I think he said some things about, I don't think it's the vaccines causing the autism. I think that's probably like phone dependency.
No, that's bullshit. I never had any phone dependency of any nature. I do have autism, and I was the only one in my family of this generation to get vaccinated. I'm also the only one that has it. So, make that what you want.
I'm willing to consider it for sure.
Alright.
I'm much more concerned about the mercury they put in them than potential autism stuff.
I mean, there's a lot of shit that comes out of that. You want to talk about the allergies, but that's the thing which is the real doubt.
Oh, yeah.
The autism is debatable. There's a bunch of other shit that causes it, but like the allergies, for instance, the amount of allergies that exist today, as opposed to what has existed in the past, much different and much more higher. A lot of the stuff that exists today was unheard of 30 years ago, for instance. Largely unheard of 30 years ago. Everybody has some weird fucking allergy that is oddly specific. And oddly specific in that there is a consistency. You can go look up what exactly I mean with that, and maybe you'll find it out. It's going to be difficult to search for it. It's going to be difficult to find it. Ironically enough, the science itself confirms this. The reason I can do these conclusions is because, a lot of materials are actually, sure, they might cost a little bit, but you can actually spend a lot of money on academic material. The only problem is you can't really share it. You can only share like the link to where it goes. You can cite where you got the intel from, but you can't cite it in its entirety because people would still have to buy it. That is the only problem, right? That's the only limitation. So people can't necessarily go dive in there and like read through that. But that's also what a lot of people use as a means to hide their facts, right? They muddle them because they can't get the whole story. So that becomes a bit of an issue. But by and large, there's something there. And I think there's some things of what RFK is saying about the vaccines, probably not true. I think quite a lot of it is. And I myself, as an individual, as a family that hasn't had a history of this exact condition, I can tell you that I myself, as an individual, have been, in the very literal sense of the word, tortured by whatever had caused that condition to exist. I like to refer as autistic people to be unstable geniuses. There were a lot of stable geniuses, but I feel if they're unstable geniuses. I appear as a very stable individual, but realistically speaking, as I grew up, I was constantly tortured by all sensory input. You cannot imagine the level of pain that is. Like, people look at me whenever I experience certain scenarios, and I remain remarkably unfazed. And I ask, how do you do that? I'm like, I guess it's just a thing. But the reality of the situation is, like, torture exists, right? And whatever caused that, I'd like to have some answers. And they better be some damn good ones. Because, I work with it. I evolve. Many people do. I'd actually say I got lucky. I got remarkably lucky because I have enough awareness, enough understanding in order to work with it. In order to not just work with it, but live with it. I got the genius end of the spectrum. It's great. It's awesome. I love it. But there's still some stuff that needs to be considered. Still some stuff that needs to be answered and accounted for. Because there's a lot of shit that I had to deal with as a result of this within my own life that I demand a good fucking answer. And the majority won't understand this because they simply fall into this loop and they refuse to educate themselves. They refuse to try and understand it. Then they do the thing that they said they stand against, which is bullying for no reason. Like, oh, you have this opinion. Right? So now we're gonna shit on you and never give you any good reasons. You don't have one. We're gonna reject it. We're gonna scream around. I'm like, even though I'm autistic as shit in many different ways, I'm supposed to be the one that you label as an individual who's supposed to be unstable, yet your mental stability rests on an ideology that is outside of anything to do with God. I love it. That's pathetic. I'm sorry, it really is. If your political opinion is what creates your morality, whatever you even think morality is, that's wild. There's like weird outgrowths to this as well. Like fucking consider Stoicism to be one of them. Stoicism isn't real. Stoicism is a label that we assign to a particular style of behaviors, particular style of ethics. And that Stoicism itself becomes a religion as a result of a book that was written by a dude who wanted that book to be burnt because nobody else was supposed to read it. It was a diary to himself, a means by which he could set a standard and set and measure himself by a standard that he set for himself because nobody else could do that. And so people take that up as a fucking religion. That is insane disrespect for the dead. People think they're something because they're a stoic, a liar. But that's besides the point, right? This is all part of the same problem. It's all part of it. Nobody considers it because it sounds insane. If I were to say this exact thing that I've said today, like a year ago still, people would have trashed me to no end. It is just that I would say a right crowd found me, and that perhaps some people have woken up to realizing, oh, wait a minute, maybe we were wrong. Because beyond that, it's a lot of shit talk. And these people will still shit talk, and they're miserable. Look at them. They have to run to another fucking bot-infested platform in order to satiate their desire to be heard for the nonsense that they have accepted to be their reality. They accuse everyone else of an echo chamber, and they place themselves in one and say, now we are something. It's like you're gonna experience the Reddit problem. You're not real. And that's unfortunate. It's a real huge problem. That's why these types of movements exist. I'm not part of a movement. Absolutely not. I'm outside of that. I'm part of only one thing, and that is to improve awareness, somehow create peace by acknowledgement of what's real and what is not. Saying what must be said, but not always, like, what must be said is a very specific definition that we can get into. I won't say certain things even though they're true, this I will admit, because there's a reason for everything. And I don't go against reason. That's like math. You want to like fight against math, you will lose. That's how it works. You get choices, you better make some good ones, because you're not going to be here for very long to make them. That's all that it's about. Everybody makes choices. And even though like an opinion would be very antithetical to whatever side you're on, coexistence is also the only way. Because if you keep swinging too far in either direction, the cycle of annihilation will benefit no one. Not even you. No one. It's empty. It's gone. There's a void there at the end of that. Because one day you'll just run out of cycles. All things have a limitation. Especially that. That's fine. It gives you a deadline. A literal deadline. It's fun. So. But that's why I look at this and I think, oh, this is very fascinating.
Yeah, I meditate a lot on the fact that, not to go back to Rome, but like the time between the unchecked horde crossing the Rhine and Rome burning down was just 4 years. It only took